I'm Jenny Hanna. I'm your chair for cash from Middle Earth. And I'd like to welcome first-time attendees and new members. If you could stand and introduce yourself quickly. We promise we won't embarrass you. Anybody?
Bruce Hart, National Education Director with Banner.
Hi, Bruce. Bruce Hart with National Education with Banner. Welcome. Glad to see a new face. I like the bow tie.
Thank you.
That's very nice. Anyone else? Okay. Well, we are live streaming today, so thank you to those that are following online. I hope I don't have anything in my teeth. So, I made a joke earlier. I found this great photo. You know how you look for photos to use in PowerPoints on the web and the free ones and everything. I found this great one that was gum on a shoe with somebody's foot coming up, and I thought that would be perfect for me to talk about the bond, because I am going to be the gum on your shoe until we get the bond passed in November. And as you all know, we've qualified. We are on the ballot for November. We are going to be able to vote for this very important bond measure. $3 billion new construction, $3 billion modernization, career tech, community colleges, charter schools. Our campaign is growing. The coalition, I think, as you all see every day, we get additional endorsements. We do still need contributions. Have lots of buttons to give away. Go to Cash Issues, stateschoolbond.com, and we want to make sure that we keep that effort up. We can't rest on our laurels at this point. Things are going very well, but we do need to continue to get contributions. And the other thing is, we are kind of plateaued out on our school board resolutions at about 120, showing a huge amount of need. I think if you look at that list, we're in, I think, upwards of $22 billion for those districts that have given us resolutions. But we have almost 1,000 school districts in the state. So let's get the word out to our neighbor districts, other folks that we work with, to make sure for them to look at that and bring that to their board. We need those resolutions to show that we have a lot of people supporting us. Of course, there's a sample resolution for folks to use, and you can refer them to that so they don't have to start from scratch. That's a good thing. Oh, there it is, $23 billion. We have a $9 billion bond. What does that tell us? And endorsements, associate members, please consider doing that. I mean, a personal endorsement counts, and we'd like to see those. Forms are available in the back of the room for those of you who have not done that yet, or contact Aline, the beautiful woman with the long hair back there that most of you know. And so recent endorsements, we have some listed here. We also have California School Boards Association and CASBO now on board. You know, everybody is happy to jump on board now, and we're happy to see that. So we continue to get those very important endorsements. We have been very successful in our fundraising effort, and we want to continue to do this with more regional fundraising efforts, and several of us have held them in our communities. It's been good to not only raise money, but to do the grassroots outreach about what a state bond means to our local school districts and why it's so important for equity. And we have these upcoming events. You can see them here, June 9th, June 14th, and June 15th. They all look like a lot of fun. I wish I had a private plane that I could get to all of them, but I don't, and I've taken a lot of vacation time to do work on this bond, so I'm about out of vacation time. But please attend these if you can, just to be a good advocate for answering questions about what the bond means. I think that's important for all of us. Yes, Mike?
And Jenny, for the event on June 15th at the brewery, I have information. If you want this information, please let me know and I'll give you a copy.
So Mike Vail has just mentioned that he has more information about the event on June 15th. It's the wrong spelling, the brewery. But
it's actually spelled that way on purpose.
Okay.
The owner's middle name is R-U-E.
Oh, okay.
Check that in the middle of the word.
All right. Well, that's clever. Okay. So confident, but not overly confident. We still need to campaign, folks. People, Public Policy Institute polling shows that people will vote for our bond if they know about it. And so we need to make sure that they do know about it. We need our campaign to make this promise a reality. So I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but let's not lose sight and let's not slow down in any way. We're not there yet. So very good. Yeah.
What are the poll numbers looking right now?
The Public Policy Institute information that went out on our information on the cash register is 63% in favor of all likely voters. Really strong. That's a really good number. You know, that has a margin of error, of course, but it's Public Policy Institute, not cash or Californians for Quality Schools polling. So, you know, it's pretty, what do you say, neutral, not no skin in the game on that one. So I'd like to thank our contributors, our folks who are associate members who have stepped up early in this effort and continue to be there for us. The diamond level, the double diamond level, it's a lot of money and we appreciate that support. We know what it means to our school districts in terms of getting this bond passed and what it'll do for equity in the state. We had a workshop yesterday. And then we're going to have another workshop Friday, June 10th in Ontario. We're following up on the popularity of school district options for competitive selection. And this workshop will focus on those various aspects to ensure that school districts have the most recent information to work on their school facilities projects in anticipation of this bond. So specifically, the workshop will feature a presentation on what services can be competitively selected and the types of competitive selection. So, and then planning your construction and modernization projects, another timely workshop, Sacramento and Ontario. Provide information on what we need to consider for delivering school bond projects. Incorporate master planning into project delivery schedule, really important step for all of us not to skip that, and move forward with the least disruption and consistent with the schedule presented to the school board and citizens. And what also is happening in the municipal bond market, and help plan probable issuance and interest costs and tax rate for local school bond fund projects. Much more. You know, we'll stay engaged with everyone. We'll keep things timely as we move forward. We're seeing a lot of activity with planning right now, and I know with the bond we're going to see a lot more move into construction and actual progression of projects. So for more information, please always check the cash register, the website. You get timely information there, and you should be looking at it to make sure you don't miss stuff. The weekly update, the cash register, is weekly now. This is your one-stop shop for latest news, upcoming events, and once in a while I have a chair message in there that's usually really well written. So encourage you to look at that. We're now going to hear from our state agencies and our updates from them. We have with us Michael Watanabe, who I promised I would say it right. See, I did it. I've been practicing. From the Office of Public School Construction, and I'm going to let him come on up. We're going to trade, give you the lapel. Would you like me to hook it on you, or you want to hold it?
Good morning, Michael Watanabe with the Office of Public School Construction. I'm Chief of Program Services there. So some highlights of tonight's meeting. The meeting tonight is at 4 p.m. It's in room 3191. It is one of the smaller rooms. My understanding is Fremont will be there with about 24 people this time, so I think the room holds about 60, so if you plan on going, you might want to be there a little bit earlier. Sorry. In the EO statement, we talked about the priority funding round. In February, we provided apportionments to about $6 to $8 million in projects. The final deadline was yesterday. We received fund release requests from everybody except for one school district. So that one school district, the project will be rescinded. The authority will return back to the program for other uses. Outstanding CT projects from April of last year, we did receive plans in time by this April. They had 12 months to submit their plans. Now they have 90 days to submit their fund releases requests. So 9 out of 10 did get their plans into us. They have until July to submit a fund release authorization now. For the September projects, we're still missing plans for 6 out of the 10 projects for about 10 million. So we're waiting on those ones. Once we receive those, their 90 days will take. In tonight's agenda and consent, we are approving 3 ORG projects for unfunded approvals for about 2.9 million. You'll see on status of funds, we do have about 6.6 million remaining authority, so we are processing the next application in line and working on that one. We have 3 ERP items tonight. They're mostly cleanup items, so if you receive notice of your index and you're wondering what that was, we are doing corrective adjustments. Under the ERP, we aren't allowed to spend interest returned to the program, and when we posted those original items, they were posted incorrectly to the board, so we're just fixing those. No new money is due back to the state. We are processing the next couple dates in line. We are providing cash funding through 32 projects for 5.8 million. There is about 7.3 million remaining ERP, so we are working through the next date in line now, and as soon as those are ready, those will go to the next board too. We do have cash for those. We're guessing probably about August those will go right now. In the action items section, we have our developer fee items. So this is a result of the board's request last month to present an item to the board to actually allow the board to trigger level 3 developer fees if they'd like to. So in this item, we provide some background information to the board on prior history and the ability to provide level 3 developer fees. Back in 2001, 2002, the program was oversubscribed at that time. At that time, the board was metering the projects and providing out apportionments each quarter. We did have an AG opinion back then. The board decided not to trigger it because the board was providing apportionments, just not on a monthly basis. We give an update on where we are right now. The government code provides 2 conditions for triggering level 3. The first one is the board's not providing apportionments as specified in Article 5. Article 5 is specifically new construction. The board has been giving out apportionments in facility hardship, but that's a different section of the education code. So we point out in the item, the last time we gave out new construction apportionments was in September of 2015. And those were for unfunded approvals provided back in February 2015. Since that time, we've gotten no new unfunded approvals in new construction. The board has had opportunities to give new construction apportionments, but twice now they've dictated that all returning authority to the program goes to facility hardships and rehabilitation projects first. So all last year, that's pretty much where all of authority has been going, and that includes CT and HPI money returning to the program. In terms of lack of funding being available, currently on status of funds, we have 2.2 million remaining. There is seismic mitigation program authority remaining in the program, a little over 80 million. That is a subset of new construction program, but what we point out in the item, the board's had multiple opportunities and the legislative to move that to new construction, but that hasn't reached a consensus. So at the moment, the board can say that's not available also. So that is an action item. The board can weigh in on that one tonight. And then the last item we have is a report on a proposed new construction loan program. School district presented proposed regs they had presented to the board for our review, and the board wanted us to review those and provide feedback on that. So that's in the reports. What that item does is expand the regulations that we have right now for financial hardship assistance, and it creates a new definition called extreme financial hardship assistance. So, as mentioned, the board previously, what this does is do a loan program for all projects that are on the acknowledged list or the true unfunded list. The loan would be for the state share of the grant and the district share of the grant. We talked about at the last board meeting, we don't have a mechanism to borrow right now in statute, so that would have to go through the legislative process to provide a funding source for these loans. So even if we did approve these regulations, we'd have no money to give out for them. The regulations also propose that if the November bond initiative fails, level 3 would automatically kick in. It doesn't propose ever an end date for those level 3s, so we kind of point that out. We'd have to write something to figure that process out. Some other changes we think would be necessary if we do this program. Currently, statute for the new construction program for school facility program is completely a grant program. It doesn't provide a mechanism to do loans for new construction grants, so the statutes would need to be amended to allow for that to happen. And the same is also true for the school district share. Right now, the statutes and regulations only allow for loans for the financial hardship share if you qualify for that program. So we think more clarification will be needed there. And then lastly, we kind of point out the timing of any regulations. On an orbit regulations track, these regulations will not kick into effect till about April of 2017, which will be after the initiative. So it may be too late to serve the intended purpose. The board could try to push those through an emergency regulation process, and they might be in effect early September, best case scenario, we think. So we do inform the board of that if they want to make that decision. You'll see in the item we've laid out 2 timelines. The timelines kind of assume that we'll see something in the legislative process happening before it actually gets approved, and we would start pre-work in January before the bond even, or before the budget even takes in effect. We start pre-work, stakeholder meetings, all that, so that as soon as the budget passes and is effective July 1st, we can do a 10-day notice, have a board meeting to potentially approve some regulations. So that's how the timelines are laid out at the moment. So that's just to report the moment. If the board wants us to bring regs or start any work, certainly they can direct us to do that. So that's the meeting tonight. Any questions? All right.
Thank you, Michael.
Welcome.
Sounds like a rousing state allocation board meeting. Hope a lot of you can stay. All right, did we have DSA show up? No? Okay. Michael O'Neill with California Department of Education. Are you good? Well, you can, or you can click. Whatever you either need to click at high. Scoot closer. I won't bite you.
Thank you.
Try that.
Good morning.
Oh, it's not close enough.
Maybe I'll hold it.
Yeah.
Good morning. Can you hear me? That's great. Okay, not too much new on the CDE front, but I'll give you a few reminders of things that have come before. One is the California Transportation Commission's active transportation program call for projects for their new funding cycle. And that deadline for submitting proposals is June 15th, so that's coming up soon. And that includes funding cycles through the fiscal year 2021. So there's about $240 million available in the cycle. Also related to safe routes to school, a series of walk audit training sessions are being held, and the one that's going to be held locally is by the Department of Public Health and Walk Sacramento on Wednesday, June 8th from 9 to 12:30 at the Hiram Johnson High School. And here's, you can learn how to conduct your own walk audits to identify changes to improve safety and security for students walking or biking to your campuses. So contact Walk Sacramento if you're a local agency. The 2016 STEM Symposium will be held again at October 9th through the 11th in Anaheim, and this is an annual symposium hosted by CDE and Californians dedicated to Education Foundation, and they'll review. CDE is reviewing presentation proposals right now, including things that sharing new or modernized facility projects, including technology integration, infrastructure upgrades, partnerships, those types of things. And also note that Sir Ken Robinson, an internationally recognized authority in creativity and innovation in educational, the education world, will be a keynote speaker at that symposium. Another reminder is that the Healthy Schools Act, beginning July 1st, 2016, this year, the school integrated pest management coordinators and anyone who applies a pesticide at a school or a child care center must take a Department of Pesticide Regulation approved training course before making any pesticide application. And this includes teachers who use any type of disinfectant, including disinfecting wipes. So school district staff and any other unlicensed individuals using pesticides at a school site must take a training course each year. So contact the California Department of Pesticide Regulation for more information about that. A reminder about the Green Ribbon program. CDE will put on another workshop this Friday, the 27th, at the Visalia Technical Early College and the Tulare County Office of Education from 9 to 2 to provide information and updates about the U.S. Department of Education and the California recognized Green Ribbon programs. Contact Leslie Taylor at our office for more information. Also, the California School Recognition Program events are continuing to occur throughout the state, and they also recognize the Gold Ribbon and the Green Ribbon school winners. There was recently a governor's executive order on water conservation, and that governor's order directs the State Water Resource Control Board to adjust and extend the emergency water conservation regulations through 2017, but it now recognizes the various differing water supply conditions that occur throughout the state. So we would recommend that districts coordinate with their local water purveyors to prepare for any changes to their conservation mandates, and that will affect maybe their percentages of use that they have to cut back or other actions. So be aware of that. And finally, if you're filing an application at CDE trying to meet some deadline, like your seabeds are going to change and that will affect your eligibility, please remember to plan for some review time at CDE and don't always expect a one-day turnaround on your application. So. Question?
Going back to the pest management training, you've said the wipes, sanitizing wipes. What about like the gel? So basically everybody in every school.
Yeah, the question was regarding the new pesticide training regulations as to whether gels would also qualify. I am not I can't speak for CDPR, but the way I understand it, if it is a disinfectant, then that would qualify as a pesticide.
So what's the or else?
I
mean,
I don't know.
You know, there's no way I'm going to send 3,700 teachers to train.
I got you.
Don't say that. Yeah, well, they'll want to be paid for it, so.
Yeah.
And tell them not to use disinfectant.
I just, one, about the gel piece, I know we're getting down in the weeds here, but no pun intended. Gels are okay, because they're contained and they don't travel, so that's one of the things that is called out. Gels are okay. The other thing about training is that it is required by July 1, but it's online. Actually, Mr. Tanaka back here has actually taken it to see how it is. It took about half an hour, 45 minutes, something like that.
Did he pass?
I did pass. Anyway, just a couple of details. Yeah.
Thank you.
Regurgitate them.
Okay, I don't know if everybody heard that, but Ian just indicated that
To call Kyle.
that the gels are self-contained and that they are not subject to the pesticide regulations. I can't speak for CDPR, so I would contact them directly about anything, and that the training is available online. So it should be a lot easier than sending somebody to an official training session. So, any other questions? Thank you.
Michael, would you do me a favor?
Sure.
I got this for Fred. All right, thanks, Michael. Now I understand we've been joined by the famous or infamous Chet Whittam, our state architect. I'm going to click back to his slide. Come on up, Chet. You're the next contestant on. Next contestant. Mm-hmm.
How are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you for being here. Would you like this clicked on you?
Yeah, if you whatever you want. My voice is pretty. Well, you got your.
Well, we've got to have it both for the room. You might want to hold it. I can't seem to get up close enough.
Okay, good. Good morning, everybody. Pardon? Oh, okay. I've got to. I'm going to clip this thing.
Jenny can hold it.
Excuse me.
It's got to go high.
Yeah, way high.
Yeah, and then you kind of have to talk.
Okay. Okay. Is that all right?
No, that's okay. Let's try that.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Great. There's a number of things that I want to share with you in terms of present and some future issues that we're dealing with. Let me start with a problem that we're facing in terms of certification, specifically on what we call the transition projects. Those are the projects from 2000, let's see, I guess it would be January 2011 through May of 2013. They were in the old system, under construction, but we had in fact, they were not part of the original 16,386, and they came before we started the inspection card system. So we're working hard and actually have a goal set to try to clean up those projects. There were, I can't remember, 1,300 or so that we have left of those projects. And my thoughts were that, okay, that's the low-hanging fruit. We're all alive. Everybody's still here. We should be able to get people to sign off. We're having a terrible time with a lot of people, including the districts themselves. I'm ashamed to say as an architect that, and I only have statistics for Sacramento and San Diego, that on San Diego alone, 234 of the architects have not signed off. That's really just appalling. But 263 of the project inspectors have not signed off. And of course, contractors, you're not so good either. 201 of the contractors have not signed off. We're not sure whether this is a legal battle going on in terms of fees, some struggle going on that's being used, but we've got to figure out a way out of this thing, because this is just unacceptable behavior on our part as architects. DSA has got a goal to clean this up, and you as districts, we need your help in this process. And it goes down. There are a whole bunch of other things that are missing, 291 and 292 forms, and I can go down the list. It's not really important. But we're going to push a big drive on this thing. We're pushing very hard. We're also going to start using the alternate certification process, which is what we were using during the in terms of the original 16,386. You see how I've got that on my brain? I can't get that number out no matter what. But we're at the point now where we've got about 89, let's see, last month it was 89.1% of the projects in that transition period are certified. But this last month, it's only 89.3%. So maybe we got, I can't remember the number exactly, but maybe 8 or 10 projects certified in a very, very short period of time. And we need to move faster. I was asked by somebody, can we start punishing the architects and the project inspectors, et cetera? I don't know whether punishment's the right word, but we really do have to bring them on the carpet and figure out what's going on. We think we might have a part of the problem in the way we've worded it as the form rather being a final verification. And we know that there are a lot of things beyond fire and life safety, structure and access that those inspectors might, or those people might be working on. But it appears, since these projects are at least 3-4 years old, it appears as if there's something going on between district, architect, inspector, etc. And I need your help. I need to figure out, why is this happening? They can't all be fee arm wrestling matches. They've got to be something else going on. And we're going to be looking at, we've been told by people above, Chet, stop certifying their stop opening up their projects. Don't do anything. Make them come to the table and finish their job. I don't want to do that. Nobody wants to stop you from the next project. But if you don't help us, we're going to be in a real bind. So I really need your help on this one. It's a really important piece. Yeah.
I know you lit a fire under our fannies last week with the email blast that went out and the deadlines this week. That just seemed to come from San Diego. Right. When is the blitz going to come from all the other offices?
We're in the middle of it right now. Craig did kind of a test on this one. He also asked me whether I could run interference because he thinks he's going to be shot on his way home.
So can you restate so the people on the web feed can hear the statement about the notice?
Okay, there was a notice that went out from Craig, from San Diego and Sacramento, both offices, went out, stating essentially that if you don't start cleaning up your projects, architect, we're not going to we're not going to approve any new projects for you. And we know it's a threat, and we don't want to do it. Yeah, I got you, Laura. I see you back there. But it's really important that we do something. Now, Laura, what?
The San Diego mandatory directives, all intact, weren't just transition projects. They're legacy projects.
Oh, there could be some legacy projects there as well, because it's the same. We've run a spreadsheet. It's 50 pages of spreadsheet showing why are the projects not being certified? What are the elements? And as I said, San Diego's got 234 their projects, 234 architects that haven't signed off. I can go through the whole list if you want. So help me, you guys come up with another solution, because we don't know what to do at this particular point, and we have a strategic goal to try to clean up our transition projects, but that doesn't mean we want to stop on the legacy projects. We've got to clean these up. And the big issue that I don't understand is transition projects are only a few years old. The architects are still in business, generally in business. You've got some of the same staff at districts. That should be easy. It should be easy to take care of it. Now, are they all fights in terms of a legal battle going on with fees? In some cases they are. But we need some help on this. And give me another alternative. Tell me what to do. So you're great at, everybody's concerned about this, but I'm not getting any answers on how we can solve this thing. We don't want to take after anybody, but we've got to find out why these people aren't signing off. So any other comments on that one, or should I move on? Okay. We are moving rapidly, I shouldn't say rapidly, we're moving into electronic back check. All the offices are beginning to do it now. We're waiting for some of the larger projects to come in. Obviously, it's just because we've opened up the door to it, that doesn't mean your projects are ready, but we really encourage you to start this process. It'll save a lot of time, we believe. At the beginning, we're having not too many problems. It's going reasonably well. But we need your help. We need to get projects going on the electronic basis. And then we're storing them in the box, and that's working really well as well. We're working on some regs, Dick Cowan. We're working on changing some regs to try to clarify the issue about whether CM fees, when CM fees are included in the cost of construction. We know that that's an issue for some contractors, et cetera. Essentially, my position is if they are acting as a CM on a multi-prime and they're actually acting as a contractor, it's included. If the district is hiring some staff people, whether they're called CMs, PMs, or if they're there to do the function of to assist the owner in terms of being the owner's representative, my goal is that they are not included in the process. And I'm getting some pushback and some concerns about it, but that's what's going to happen, and hopefully rather quickly. Bad news on bin time, it's really moving up. We understand why. It's interesting, we have in the last, it looks to us like about almost $1 billion, about 900 and some odd million dollars worth of projects over what we received last year, with a reduced staff, and they're all coming in. We're trying really hard. We're trying to go out on some outside contracts. As an architect, in practice, I hated that because they started questioning my design approach as opposed to just doing minimum whether met the requirements. But we might be forced to do that in order to get some projects out. Any of the architects here that do that kind of thing, it's nothing against you. But in fact, we would like to have the staff to do it internally, but we're going to go out. We've got the contracts for structural taken care of. Access and fire and life safety are out.
What's your estimate the current bin time is?
It's about 7. Well, let me take that back. Los Angeles snapshot was 10 weeks. The others were in the 6 week. That snapshot is just a snapshot because they were about to take one of those projects and move it to Sacramento, which would have dropped everything down. So you have to be really careful with that bin time process. I hate that, quite frankly. If I'm a practicing architect or an owner, I want to know when I'm going to get my project. I don't care how long it sits in the bin. Get it out for me. And I'm trying to work on how we can start expressing that a little bit better. I think that's it that I've got. I'm open for any questions, etc. And I'm really open for the help in terms of what do we do about the certification process. Yes, Laura.
Are you guys tracking intake as part of bin time? Because we've seen intake time go up significantly.
You know, we've been talking about that. And the question is, are we tracking intake time as part of bin time? And I'm not sure what we're doing because we've been going back and forth in order to try to clarify that. So I apologize, but I can get that information if you want to call me. Okay, good, all right?
Thank you, Chad.
Boy, you are really moving fast, Jenny.
Trying to beat Joe Dixon, trying to be more efficient. It's hard to do, it's a hard act to follow. Okay, we're going to hear from staff, Rebecca and Ian, here shortly on ledge and regulatory issues updates. But because of an agenda item on State Allocation Board today, we're inviting up Dave Walrath to speak to us about that. So, you want to go, sir? You go.
Thank you. As was mentioned, there is an agenda item on the State Allocation Board today dealing with Level 3 developer fees. We had a very comprehensive conference call with the Cash Board. Cash Board discussed the issue at depth, looked at all the various alternatives, and adopted the following position. Then I'll explain why. The position is to not support the staff recommendation or staff proposal to levy Level 3 or to authorize the levy of Level 3 at this time. So the reasons why. Essentially, CASH's goal and policy is that every student in the state and every teacher should have access to a quality classroom. Level 3 has so many inequities in it that it does not assure that type of access. Developer fees cannot be used for modernization. We have school districts in this state who have enrollment growth, but no real development. We have a variety of issues and concerns. In 2012, CASH sent a letter asking the board to review triggering Level 3. But that was because there wasn't a bond on the ballot. We do have a bond on the ballot. We believe it's better to not act, pass the bond, because the bond addresses all the inequities. It provides funds for the hardship districts. It provides funds for modernization. It addresses those districts who have facility needs. It addresses those districts who have growth but no development. It is a much more equitable solution, and quite frankly, how many people were in the room when SB 50 was developed? Right. Quite frankly, Level 3 was always to be the hammer to have a bond on the ballot, because everybody knew all the problems that were inherent with that triggering, that it would not provide adequate funds, it was not an alternative funding mechanism. What was more important is the bond and passing the bond. The second concern, outside the equity, which is our primary concern, is that we're afraid local bonds will be put at risk. Bonds that will be on the ballot, potentially those in June, might be at risk, but definitely those in November. That's because taxpayer groups might say, why are we increasing property taxes, passing local bonds, if we can have the developers pay for everything? And a campaign can be crafted to say, no tax, have development pay. That still results in those districts who are passing a bond mainly for modernization would not be able to be helped. And it has all the other inequities, but the taxpayer groups might not care. And the taxpayer groups have become more and more concerned about the level of local debt. Howard Jarvis and some of the others have been raising the issue. And if they can find a hammer to use against local bonds, our passage rates might start declining because there would be organized opposition from those groups who say, no more property tax, just have development pay the cost. That's the second reason we're concerned, because there would not be adequate local funding to address all the local needs as well if that were to occur, and we're reasonably confident given all that has occurred with the state bond and the issues that have been raised by taxpayer groups, and it's not a tax increase. There are comments and some of the local comments that they will go in that direction. So today, the position will be a recommendation that the State Allocation Board and a request that the State Allocation Board not adopt the proposal from staff at this time. We have a bond on the ballot. Let's pass that bond. Questions?
Wow,
Well,
did a great job.
thank you all. Appreciate it.
Dave, can I just clarify?
Oh, yeah.
Staff is not recommending LP, we're just providing information that will allow them if they want to.
I understand that it's a proposal from staff,
Not a proposal, just we're providing information.
and I understand it's one of two options. Of course, it does raise some issues as to whether the board, with that staff option, could tell an alternative without other issues, without taking a vote. Hopefully, they don't have to take a vote, but we'll see what happens at the allocation board. Should be interesting. We will have a notice go out as soon as the board acts, however it acts, so all the school districts in the state will have the most current information on the status of the issue. Thank you very much.
All right, good morning, everybody. I'm going to give an update on where we are in the legislative process and then give you a quick update on a couple of bills. We are in kind of a fun time. I think I say that every month when I come up here, but we're at the point in the legislative process where bills that are in the fiscal committee, that's the appropriations committee, have a deadline looming, and that's this Friday. The legislature will take action on the bulk of bills that they've collected on the suspense file, which is a mechanism that allows the legislature to collect bills that may have a fiscal impact to the state and then prioritize them, potentially amend them to try and reduce costs, and then make their decisions about which bills will move forward at one time. And we've got a number of bills that Cash is either actively watching or has taken a position on that are on that suspense file. But the next time that we meet, I will let you know what happens with those bills. This is actually the place where bills go to die. A bill in the first house does not typically die in a policy committee because who wants to kill a bill on a policy reason when you can easily just kill it for fiscal reasons in the appropriations committee, and it's a silent death. So we'll report to you on some of those next month. The couple of bills that I want to update you on this morning are actually bills that are bypassing that appropriations process because they've been coded as not actually costing the state any significant amount of money. And the first one is AB 2316. This is a bill by O'Donnell, and this one is related to lease-leaseback. This is a bill that will establish a competitive selection process for lease-leaseback based on best value. This is a provision that Cash has taken a support position on, and we know that the author is really trying to preserve a collaborative process that's inherent to lease-leaseback. And the language in the bill, which has now been added since we all last met with more specificity, includes criteria such as relevant experience, safety record, a price proposal, and other factors that are specified by the district. The second provision in this bill is related to disgorgement and would provide a safe harbor from conflict of interest litigation for contracts that were signed prior to July 1, 2015 that are ultimately found to be invalid because of conflict of interest issues. And the bill would allow contracts that are in this situation and contractors to keep the costs of labor, materials, services that they've provided, but they would have to return profits to the school district. Cash does not have a position on this provision. We think that we need to spend a little bit more time understanding what the impacts are and really knowing what the legal precedent would be that would be established by this piece. So that's sort of a tweener position. It's something that we don't typically do, but we did want to express support for that collaborative process for lease-leaseback. When this bill was heard in the Education Committee on the Assembly side, it was a very interesting conversation. And one of the things that came out of that conversation was sort of an overwhelming acknowledgement and support from the members on the Assembly Education Committee that lease-leaseback is an important tool. It's helping school districts meet their facilities needs in a time where you have a number of constraints and it's become more difficult to deliver, especially with your fiscal constraints. So it was heartening to kind of hear some of that coming from the legislative members. And the bill did pass out of the Assembly Education Committee. It did pass out of the full Assembly, and it's now on the Senate side, and we'll be going through the process there. The other bill I want to give you a quick update on is AB 2429 Thurmond. This is a bill that I spoke to you about last month, and it will increase the limits on bonding capacity under Proposition 39. So right now for elementary and high school districts, that's at 1.25%, and it would go up to 2% of your general fund. And for unified school districts and community college districts, it would go from 2.5% to 4%. This is something that can already be done with a waiver at the State Board of Education. And historically, Cash has supported this. However, given the political complexities in today's environment, some of which Dave just described to you with our top priority being the bond, we're watching this bill. But it did pass out of the Assembly. It's awaiting consideration in the Senate. All right, any questions on those or any other bills? All right, thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I think it's still morning. I am going to talk to you about three budget items that Cash is chasing around, interested in, basically. But before I do that, I did want to give a little bit more information on the Healthy Schools Act. It appears there's a lot of interest in that. The Department of Pesticide Regulations website is very good, unlike a lot of state agency websites. There's a lot of information on there. They have a toolkit for training large groups, so if you wanted to do something in-house, you can do that. Also, the staff is very good. They can come out in some large venues and do a specialized training. So continue to watch that, but that's something not to forget about. Now on to the budget. The Friday before last, the May revision was released, and there were basically three pieces in there, as I referred to, that we're chasing around. One was referred to earlier today in the OPSC presentation. That is the School Facility Emergency Repair Revolving Loan Program, definitely a mouthful. That's $100 million in one-time funding for school districts' health and safety issues. So kind of an extreme hardship, kind of emergency repair program type of program. It is made to aimed at districts that are having the most difficult time, the most hard time, so they can be approved quickly and to have those issues addressed. So the issue has been heard by the Assembly Budget Committee, and they rejected it. Yesterday, the Senate committee rejected it. There is some concern about using this $100 million, which comes from operations for facilities. As you might imagine, the California Teachers Association are concerned about that. So they've opposed it, and the Legislative Analyst's Office also opposed it. In support of this was the Department of Education, obviously the Department of Finance, and Cash went up in support of this. Now, we did make the proviso that it's a loan program, right? And it's only $100 million. So this is not like it's replacing any need for the massive need for school maintenance. As we know, in light of budget flexibility, the demise of the deferred maintenance program, and now in last year's budget, the last of the emergency repair program funds were distributed. So there's nothing out there. So we did support that, but we made sure that we said that as a bridge to a more comprehensive program. In other words, we don't want to be bought off by this. But because it is aimed at health and safety programs, something that is the cornerstone of the organization, we did support it. So watch this space. We'll see what happens to this. Another one is there is a proposal in the May revision too. I'm going to read this. Increase the minimum project cost threshold for K-12 schools and community college construction projects to be reviewed by the Division of State Architect. So they're lowering it from about $42,000 to $100,000 for structural projects, and from $170,000 essentially to $225,000 for non-structural projects. Now, both budget subcommittees approved those without discussion. So it bodes well for those changes. Not quite as large of an issue, but one I think is emerging, and that is the issue of access to safe drinking water. And in fact, well, a lot of districts might face this, but a fair amount of them in the valley. And you've heard about that here and there. In the budget this year, there is a one-time $10 million budget allocation to be used to help districts with clean water access. What specifically, so far, they're talking about installing water stations, installing filtration systems, and even, and here's something for our group that could be significant, completing plumbing repairs and so on. So maybe a little bit more than delivering water and so on. So the language is still being worked out on that, but there appears to be wide support for that. So we're hopeful that when the budget is passed, that will be included, and there will be some funding and a program to help districts who are having problems with clean water, access to water. You know, the issue of lead is a big one nationally. It's only a matter of time before there is more issues. In fact, there is legislation this year. Cash is in full support of that, and we think it has a pretty good chance of remaining in the budget when it's signed. So unless there's any questions, that was my update for today. Okay, thank you very much.
I always step up here right at noon, so I don't know whether to say good afternoon or good morning. So have a good day the rest of the day, that's what I'll say. My name is Don Ulrich. I work for Clovis Unified Schools near Fresno, and I'm the CASH Vice Chair. I'm here to give you your update on the annual conference planning. Critical time for our planning. You know, even though it seems a long way off, we have some critical planning to do. Actually, today is the next conference planning committee that will start right after we finish the general membership meeting today. The deadline to submit workshop and roundtable proposals is this Friday, just a couple of days away, so we want to get those in if you have ideas. Strand chairs have been selected, got a couple final ones to do though, so that's important. Outside planning committee meetings begin the task of actually defining those workshops for the 2017 conference. If you know of anybody that's interested in helping out one of the strands, please contact Lisa Church or myself to get involved. It's obvious that this conference will be huge because we plan on passing, this bond measure. So the implementation of actually getting the funds out for our school districts is going to be on everyone's mind. The conference should be more attended probably than anyone in the past few years. So knowing that, you can bet that we will have a great conference that will focus on implementation, focus on making sure that facility people know how to get that money out to best serve their kids, best serve their teachers, and best serve their school communities. We'll focus on that. So you can count on that. That's what we'll really get into the meat of today. And that's your update, unless there's any questions about the conference. All right, thank you. Next, Anna is here. She's going to give you a report on the energy and water update, and after that, I believe Dave on California school facilities. Question? Oh, okay.
Oh, this thing makes me crazy. I'm just going to hold it. Okay. So, school energy news, as far as the budget goes, very exciting. We have actually had an uptick in the May revision for Proposition 39. So, yay for that. We get an extra $33.3 million for K-12 grants and an extra $4.1 million for community colleges proposed in the May revision. Of course, they still have to go through the negotiations with the legislature, but it looks good. As you know, SEC has been asking for a clarification on why it is when corporate revenues go up that we weren't seeing a corresponding associated increase for the Clean Energy Jobs Fund, and today we see that correlation. So good work on for everyone who's done a project, and we've been able to showcase those for the state as well. So the new proposed totals for the program in 2016, again proposed 17, is 398.8 million for K-12 and 49.3 million for community colleges. Now remember, they still have to go through the process of pulling out the bundled funding that went out to some of the smaller districts, and then the free and reduced price meals that also comes off the top. So the actual per LEA amount will be decided, and we'll see what that is from CDE at the end of November once the budget gets done. So as for school energy legislation, again, reiterating what Rebecca said about where good bills go to die in appropriations. They live or die based on these monetary concerns and also political reasons. I love the silent death comment, Rebecca. It's not silent on our end, though. We're screaming when they don't take our bills forward. So all of the bills that we are interested in at this time have been sent to suspense file for review. SEC has letters to staff asking for their release. But to review, SB 1041 WESO is that school energy rate bill I told you about last month. It asks the CPUC and the public utilities to establish a just and reasonable rate for schools based on the cost of service delivery. Strong pushback from the public utilities who say that such an adjustment could mean that rates go up for those of you who are in municipal utility areas or public utility areas. That could mean an amendment is on the horizon, but needs to get out of suspense first, so we're not really engaging on that right now. AB 2120 Weber is the intervenor compensation bill, would allow COEs and school district consortiums to apply for reimbursement for resources expended on formally participating in PUC energy proceedings that impact them, and that's been narrowed only to energy. Again, we're holding our fire for the other side, so to speak. SB 1207 WESO is that ECA extension. Don't know why it's on suspense. There's no money in it, but it is there, and we will see what happens with that. And then 2339 Irwin AB, which is net energy metering, also includes municipals who are strongly pushing back in the wake of, actually it's focused on public utilities, in the wake of the fact that these utilities may be reaching the cap for net energy metering customers sooner than their IOU counterparts. So what they're saying is, we need you to have a formula similar to the IOUs. Of course, the public utilities like that. So, and I'm hearing it may be in some trouble, so we'll see if that gets out. We have letters on these bills, happy to share. Please let us know, and just include information on how Prop 39 or other of this may be impacting your school district. The other bill of interest that we're watching, just because it looks like fun, is out of approps and over to the other house. It's SB 919 Hertzberg, develops a special time of use energy rate for entities that augment local water supply through recycling, brackish, desalinization, those kinds of things, would be asking the CPUC to adopt other policies that address the issues of oversupply. I guess that means solar. And so we're watching that one just to see, because it sounds like a good idea, but we want to see what the impacts are with regard to rates. The thing in the news is there's draft revisions at the CEC for the Prop 39 guidelines. Those are online on the Prop 39 website at the CEC. There's mostly things like updating dates and legal references for clarity. A couple items of note. There's a clarification of when ASHRAE Level 2 energy audit is or is not needed. Actually, what it looks like is they've taken out references to ASHRAE Level 2 and included a generic energy audit language, and also what that must entail if you're using a third party to calculate and not the CEC calculator. So those of you who are using consultants may want to look at that. It also adds an option regarding the SIR for LEAs who receive first preference federal government rate. This is Calaveras, Tuolumne, and Trinity counties. But we're asking that they look at other public entities like irrigation districts, because we know that some schools have had an issue with the SIR simply from having low rates in those areas. We'll see what happens. Best value criteria has been repealed in public contracts code, so there's a legal reference that has been added in the guidelines. And there are a few eligible energy measures and associated effective useful life references added in Appendix E. So all of those things are, seem kind of minor, but we'll be there to talk about some more things that we're concerned about, because this is the time where they open up for comments, and those are due by Friday, the 27th. So take a look at the website if there's something you want to add. It's really easy. You just can go online and talk about those things. At our recent SEC forum, switching to water, we had a water board representative tell us about the recent changes in a governor's executive order issued earlier this month, which will allow water districts to set their own conservation targets. So it kind of takes away the mandates that were there before, the basically 25% sliding scale. Will now let them do that. Of course, we're looking for stakeholder input, and we'll keep you posted on that. We also began discussions at our forum on what's next for Prop 39. We want to hold on to that funding source, so we will be talking about that, and we'll be asking for your input in the next few months about what a new program might look like. Holding on to that funding source is really important, given that everything else is still getting paid for, while we take that 50% out of corporate tax revenue. So we would love to hear from you on that, and we'll continue those discussions. It's important that we do that before the deadline in 2018. Any questions about energy and water in schools? No? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Anna. It's very valuable to have her detailed knowledge on those issues, for sure. Oops. Skipping forward. Being joined by Joshua Jorn from Monterey County Office of Education. He's going to give an update on our federal Californians for School facilities.
Perfect. Thanks, Jenny. So a quick reminder to those who were not aware, the 15-16 QZAB allocations were announced, and CDE will be responsible for the statewide authorization. There's close to $100 million that's been allocated for California, which is the largest authorization to date. CSF continues to work for improvements within the QZAB program. Primarily, we're concerned and we focus on the reduction of the private partnership contribution, broader construction usages, and of course a permanent extension to the program. We also work with our congressional members on our initiatives, other initiatives such as the 179D energy tax deduction, which of course supports improved school facilities. Our primary goal of CSF as an organization is to lay the groundwork for the continuation and expansion of a federal role in public school facilities. So programs such as QZABs, we all remember the Qualified School Construction Bonds and the Build America Bonds, are all examples of the much needed and heavily utilized funding mechanisms for schools in the state of California. Next week, June 1st through the 3rd, our delegation is going back to Washington. We have scheduled meetings with the Department of Education, our congressional members, Treasury, and other agencies, and I will bring an update back to this body at the end of June. So please, if you're interested in joining us, we have another meeting scheduled in the fall. We have flyers in the back. Please sign up, and that is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Sorry, got a lisp today. Well, that wraps up our meeting for today. I want to offer a job exchange or any jobs out there, notices people want to bring to our attention. As you know, our cash register has those job postings. There's several there, and in fact, I have an RFQ of several listed things that I need for a school project, so please check that out for me. Give me a response. All right, well, with that, we're going to adjourn. I hope to see some of you at Allocation Board meeting. Thanks for being here today. Oops. Next meeting, June 22nd, 2016.